Hi, pal, and welcome to season 2 of I've Got Your Back, the podcast. I am so excited that this season is going to be about entrepreneurship. So, if you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur and you're curious about how to be one, what it means, how do you embody the mindset, or how do you create ways to become an entrepreneur, and any lessons there are in being an entrepreneur, then this season is for you. Speak to you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of I've Got Your Back, the podcast. This is episode 4. Welcome. I am coming to you actually on an evening. I normally record my podcasts during the day, but it's been a bit of what I would say, it's been a hard week. It's definitely been an emotional week. And that's why I'm coming to you in an evening, because I've sort of given myself a bit of time and space. And the reason for that is I want to share with you what's going on, as well as talk about the topic for this podcast. But, I got some really sad news just over a week ago that my friend, one of my really good friends, who I met in Australia, who struggled with mental health, actually took his own life and passed a week ago. So that sudden news was obviously a bit of a shock. I was really hit. It really hit me physically, emotionally, mentally. And I really just had to take the time out to feel those emotions and to sort of go through it, like for me, I just think there's no other choice but to go through it. I can't just bottle it up or carry on. For me, I really do need to really lean into the emotions, and I think it's healthy to do that. So it has been a particularly tough week, and I'm sure I've had many weeks like this before and many days like this before, but for some reason, I don't know about you, but I've never lost a friend that's taken their own life. So it really has it's been big. And so when I was sort of thinking about, the next few episodes and what to talk about, and I was chatting to Wendy, who helps me create this podcast, she said, what would be really good for you to talk about this and not go into the details of it, but essentially, how do you navigate the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur when a personal thing happens, or even from a business point of view, when something really significant or bad happens in your business? Like, what do you do? Or things that are really hard, like how do you navigate those ups and downs, and especially the emotional ups and downs? And so I thought that would be really good, because I'm so in it at the moment. I feel as if I can speak now, which is good. And just help if any of you are in that situation. What are the things that I do, what are the things that I've done in the last week to really help with this really low that I've been in. And I feel as if that's important. It's really important as an entrepreneur, especially because a lot of the time you're wearing multiple hats. Yes, you've got maybe a couple of people in your team, or you may have thousands of people in your team or hundreds of people in your team, but ultimately you're the one running the show, with a group of people as well. But what do you do when those things happen? How do you navigate the lows? And so what I thought I'd cover off is just a couple of things that really helped me, and things that have helped throughout the years. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was structure and systems. So most of you that know me will know I am not the best at structures and systems. Like, I am a very big creative. I'm a visionary. I'm big picture. I'm all about connecting with people, relationships, and the sort of back end of stuff. I'm just like, And so I've learned over the years that when you create structure and systems, or you get someone to help you that's really good at structure and systems, and that's their superpower, then that will help you. So that's definitely helped me. And when I just think about this last week, because I've just basically been out of the game, like not been like, when I get struck with something, the one that shocks me, the two is, someone who's died or passed, or anything very significant that really is the most important thing in the world, is our relationships with our family and our friends, and our loved ones. Like, when that happens, it's like it's really important to have these structure and systems in place. So one of the things that I was super grateful for, and I have been so grateful for this for the last 14 years, is I have had my online Arbonne store for 14 years. And what that means is that because I've been consistently building this business, sharing the business with people, sharing the products with people, my Arbonne shop is open 24/7. So anyone, whether you're a consultant or a customer, you can begin online there and buying from my online store. I'm still getting paid, but I'm not necessarily doing the work every single day or showing up or, doing all or presenting or whatever, because people that I maybe spoke to 10 years ago still love and use these products and are going to go online and replenish their products. And, some of these people I don't even know. So it's so powerful when you've got something like that. And as an entrepreneur, I've said this in the previous episode, is making sure you have those multiple streams of income. Like the goal ideally is 8. That's what I recommend. And so it means when you've got these different income streams, when stuff like this happens to you, everything doesn't stop. Your income doesn't stop. That's the most important thing. You've got to create businesses and mechanisms where you're still earning money, even if you need to stop, right? And that's what's really powerful about being an entrepreneur. You can create that. And I think actually as an employee, you can create it as well, because I started Arbonne when I was in a full-time job, not really knowing that this was going to happen or something was going to happen a year in, 2 years in, 6 months in. You don't know, right? So you've got to prepare for impact. That's the biggest message I can give you, is you've got to prepare for impact, because life is going to throw you stuff, whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's going to come at you. So it's making sure that you're prepared even when things are going well. I'm always thinking, right, well, what can I do now? Like even when Arbonne was super going super well, sort of 2020, one of the biggest years I've had in terms of income, I was already investing in Definity, which has been going for 3 years, because I knew at some point something was going to come down, because everything that goes super high is going to come down. It's not going to stay in that trajectory forever, right? So you've got to be preparing for impact. And when this happened just in the last week, I was so grateful because my Arbonne shop was still open. It doesn't close, even though I need to take time out, right? And so that was still going. People were still buying products. That's open 24/7, no matter what. So that's what's so powerful about having an income stream like that. So I was super grateful for that. With sort of like systems and tools, it's so good to sort of have tools that help you. There's so many amazing things out there. For example, Flowdesk, which means you can actually plan and schedule newsletters, emails in advance. You can do this like a month in advance, a couple of months in advance, but having these tools where your content and your communication with your customers is still going to go ahead, again, if you can't be there, you physically do it. So definitely a part of structure is having a strategy and having a plan and planning ahead so that you have that. In terms of social media, like I've not been that good at this, but it's definitely something that I'm working on, is tools like Play, which is an app where you get to schedule your social media posts. So again, even though I won't feel like posting and I would want to go on social media, which I've definitely not felt like in the last week, then at least things are still going out. And things like my podcast, and thanks so much to Wendy again for helping with this, because she was like, let's get 3 episodes ready in advance and have them all recorded, so that's like the first 3 weeks are done. 3 weeks ago, I didn't know I was going to get this news, but the great thing was, because I'd already recorded those episodes, they were all ready to go. So it meant like everything's kept ticking along, and it's just given me that space, because the last thing I wanted to do was get on a podcast and talk, so it's like those types of things really help. And there's so many apps like Flowdesk I use, Play, or MailChimp is an alternative to Flowdesk, where you get to plan and have this content ready to go out. And also like recordings of stuff and content that works for you. So even with Definity, generally how it works at the moment is we'll receive emails or requests. At the moment, we get a lot of people emails and say, hey, I got recommended to you to help me become B Corp certified. can I book in for a call? And actually, I have a thing called Calendly on the website where people can just book in a meeting straight away and it was straight into your calendar. So that's really powerful because again, when I was just sort of out of it, like these things were still happening. And you can obviously, I was just keeping a little eye on that to make sure I didn't miss anything. But, a quick email to them to say, listen, can we actually reschedule this? Or can we book in for another date? But tools like that allow people to keep and still know you're in business and still keep booking in with you. And also, one of the things that I'm passionate about is having recordings of content. So when the first time that I speak to a client about B Corp, I'm always covering off the same things. Like, what's the process of becoming a B Corp? How much does it cost? What do I need to prepare for it? What's involved? How long does it take? Do I need to recertify? There's always the same questions, right? And so one of the things that I did is I recorded a webinar that details all of that. So it means in the last week, when someone's wanted to speak to me, I said, listen, I've actually got something personal going in the moment, but if you watch this video, this recording, this will answer all your questions. It gives you an overview of what's involved, and then can we chat in a couple of weeks? So again, it's utilizing, so I have them on YouTube ready to go. Those webinars are there. So using these tools, these systems where you leverage your time, and it might even be that you have an online course that, people can download and buy. That's one of the things I'm working on for Definity, actually, and knowing about B Corp, because I recognize that the same things come up and people want to know the same things. So having something that's like really polished and like almost like a little mini online course is something I'm going to work on next. Because again, when stuff happens, people can just be like downloading and buying that online. So obviously some of this content's free, some of it can be purchased, but it just means that your message is still getting out there and your business is still growing because you've got this content and you're utilizing all these tools. So that's what I would say. Those are the ones that I use in terms of like, getting content out there. So making sure social media, newsletters, things like that are all up and running. And I just say, just be honest and communicate is such a big thing. Like I had quite a few calls scheduled in the last week, and some of them I just reached out to them and said, listen, I've just received some really sad news. This is what's, I didn't go into detail, but my friend's just passed suddenly. I just need a bit of time to myself. Because that's what I do. I go really inwards. Would it be okay if we reschedule this? And everybody's absolutely fine. They're not going to say no. So really get on the communication, even putting out of office on, again, utilize tools, like utilize things that are there. Like, I'm not going to be able to chat to you right now, but let's reschedule for a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or whatever it is. So yeah, so that's what I would say in terms of structure and systems, because they really help you. They really, really do help you. And the biggest tip, is planning for that. And even this podcast, I'm thinking even months from now, years from now, this content is always going to be there. My podcast channel is always going to be there. So it means if someone's listening to this a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm sure there'll be something else that happens in my life that's very significant, but at least this is here. So it's so important that as an entrepreneur, you show up with your voice and your content, you put it out in as many channels as you can, because that content is going to land in someone's lap at some point at the right time that they need it. And then when you're sort of going through life and some of these lows and some of these significant moments, that stuff's working for you. You want things to be working for you when you need to take time out for yourself. Prepare for impact. The second thing I want to talk about is have your support crew. So I just want to talk a bit about, from a business point of view, having your support crew. So for me, I, in terms of how I operate my businesses, I don't employ any people because I don't want to have that responsibility in terms of pensions and superannuation and all of that. I definitely work and collaborate with people, but I would much rather have freelancers, or even in Arbonne, we have like freelance consultants. Like I don't employ anyone. They're responsible for their own business. And with Definity, I have freelance consultants that I definitely can call upon, that I've been actually chatting to for months and just starting to train them and talk to them and really, again, create that, if anything happens to me, who can take this over? And so it's been really interesting. I've actually had so many women reach out to me in the last few months about becoming B Corp consultants that have been like, yeah, let's have a conversation, because I don't want I don't want Definity just relying on me. It's really important that I pass on my knowledge so that other people can take some of our clients through, because Definity, we're always going to have clients come through. So in order to scale and grow it, or even just if I need to take time out, I need other people there that know what to do. Okay. So I think just having the right support crew is really important. So for me, one of the biggest things I learned early on, and because it's a blind spot of mine as well, like one of my blind spots is finances and accountancy and all of that, anything to do with spreadsheets. I'm like, I have grown to fall in love with them over the years, but it's definitely not my strong point. And so one of the things I always have, and even transitioning from Australia to here, I had the same accountant for pretty much 10 years in Australia, almost like an outsourced CFO, like a chief financial officer. And as soon as I got to Scotland, the first thing I did was find that partner, that chief financial officer, that outsourced chief financial officer accountant that will be my partner, that will help me with the numbers, the accounts, the invoices, and all of that. And again, tools like Xero is an amazing tool. Again, where invoices can all be done, everything's tracked. So making sure that lots of things are automated so that you're not having to do everything all the time. So I have an outsourced CFO, Full Stop Accounts. They are a B Corp, and I found them. They're based out of Wales. And, I just knew that I had a couple of invoices that had to be sent. I just quickly sent Alex a message and said, hey, Alex, can you do this for me, please? This is what's going on. And he was like, yeah, absolutely on it. So having the relationships with those people, people like Wendy, like I just messaged her straight away and I was like, Wendy, this is going on. I can't record the podcast this week. It's going to have to wait. Is that going to work with dates? Like, again, communicating really clearly. And she's like, yeah, just make sure well, I'll do this, this, and this. We'll just keep things along. We've got the 3 episodes anyway. Just take the time. So it's letting the key people know, people in your immediate network. So with Arbonne, I just told the immediate people that I know in my team that need to know, so that they know that if they message me or ask me for something, there's going to be a slow response. And asking for help is such a big thing, like especially as women in business, like asking for help and receiving that help. There was a couple of things I was scheduled in to do that I was like, I absolutely can't do this. Can someone help? And people obviously rallied around because they know what's going on. So you've got to have that support crew. So from a business point of view, I would say having the outsourced CFO, the outsourced chief marketing officer, the outsourced salesperson, the outsourced consultants, like whatever it is, like have those support crew members so that when you have to disappear, again, things are going to be ticking along. And then I would say from a personal point of view, like I've really been sort of, dealing with a lot of the grief and the sadness of this last week. And, for me, from a personal point of view, how I deal with that is I go very inwards, and I spend a lot of time in nature anyway. But I find when that happens, I spend even more time in nature. And I only really have, I would say, 2 or 3 people that I talk to about the grief and the sadness and what's going on, and communicate with that. Obviously, social media and people that I chat to on there, because I'm a bit of an open book, so I share things on there and people do talk to me. But for the real details of how I'm feeling and sitting in that place, there's only like literally 2 or 3 people I can do that with, that are literally my soul best friends. And so it's really important that you have them. And I would say, as an entrepreneur, make sure you always cultivate those relationships, because it's easy when you're getting pulled in multiple directions and you are the person building these businesses that you spend so much time in your work and you forget to cultivate those relationships. And for me, it's always just been a big thing to cultivate relationships personally, because I know that when things go really bad and I'm like down and out, I really need those people. I really need those 2 or 3 people just to listen, to actively listen, and just to hold space for me, just like as I cry, as I just, work through things, or as I talk through things that's going on, that's on my mind, that's on my heart. So it's really important that you have those people. So please make sure as you're building your businesses, you take the time to cultivate the most important relationships, those people that have got your back, I've got your back, the podcast. It's really important that you have those people so that, yeah, they're there. And when stuff like this happens, you've not got no one, because that can happen. Like, you get so caught up in your work that you don't have any of those really close, intimate relationships. So make sure you do that. In terms of support crew. Yeah. And then the third thing I want to talk about is mindset. Now, this is something that I've spoke about many times, and I will continue to talk about forever, because what goes on in here is all within your control. It can be so powerful, your mind, but it can also be so destructive. And I think that's very fitting, considering Chris, I know he did struggle with his mental health for many years, and managing this mind is honestly the most important thing you can do as a human, but also as an entrepreneur. So I've learned this lesson from the age of 15 years old, when I first picked up a book from my aunt, gave me The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and I started to understand the power of the mind. And I've never stopped learning and trying to understand the power of mind. We only know like a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. It's like these brains that we have are like insane how powerful they are. So it's making sure that, I would say, even as I went through many ups and downs in Arbonne, like 14 years, there's been plenty. There's been so many times I've been in tears over things, of people leaving, of not reaching a promotion that I wanted, or, disappointed for people that didn't get what they wanted or what they were striving for. And, and all these things. There's so many things that happen when you're working with people. It can be very like emotional, because you're emotionally invested with these people you're working with. And, I would say, it's almost like this. There's these ups and downs that happen all the time in your business. But I would say the one thing that goes through, there's two things actually. Your well-being is actually your well-being that cuts through all of that. And if you can consistently, day by day, work on the habits of your well-being, mind and body and soul, these ups and downs won't seem as extreme. Okay? So I hope you get that. You're going to get these ups and downs, but your well-being, your mind, body, and your soul, your practices, your daily habits, that's why I go on about habits all the time, is that when stuff like this happens, yes, it's going to be a low, but because you've got those daily habits in place, it's going to get you back up to that point where you can sort of sustain yourself again. If you've not got that absolute foundation in yourself, the lows are going to be extremely low, the highs are going to be extremely high, but you're actually going to go from one extreme to the other, and the peaks and troughs, and even the come down from the highs are going to be so extreme. And that's not always a good thing for your mental well-being and your physical well-being. So it's, how do you get back to the point where you can sustain yourself again? I just feel as if I'm actually at the point now where I can sustain myself again after that sort of news, and so what I would say around this is just protect your mind. Oh my goodness, protect your mind. Like, I don't watch any news. I don't get involved in gossip. I don't let any sort of negativity into this mind. And that's not saying I'm positive all the time. What that's saying is I'm protecting my mind from the stuff that actually doesn't serve it. And so one of the things I always do is tune into positive people, tune into podcasts that bring me joy, tune into calls, tune into myself, to nature. Even actually more than anything is I just tune into nature to protect my mind and just listen to sounds of nature. It's like an absolute orchestra. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And for me, it's just very calming. Meditation, yoga, all of those things. It's just about how do you protect your mind in those situations. And that's protecting from certain people, the news, because that can sometimes be, well, most of the time it's pretty negative, right? And some things you just, is actually, you don't need to know. If you really are meant to know something, you will find out. Even in social media, protecting yourself, like, who are you following? What? Because sometimes we go on there and we don't know what's coming, and something can just come up that really can shock you, right? So make sure you clean that out as well. Like, if you're going to be on there, make sure what's going to come up is your sort of, it's good people, good humans, good stories, people that light you up. Yeah, it's good knowing certain stuff, but other stuff, it's just, there's no need for you to know, because it's not going to benefit you in your mind. So I would say that's an ongoing thing. And I think for me, it's been so good this last week, because I know what's going on for me. I'm so self-aware that I am going through grief and sadness and, you know, going between laughter and crying, and my emotional body has been really impacted right now. And so what that means is you have different bodies. You have your physical body and you have your emotional body. And so, and you have your, I would say, not necessarily calling it a body, but your mental mind, right? And so the mind and the body, I'm working on every single day. Every single day, I've got the habits in place to keep them going as part of my well-being routine. But sometimes when things hit you, you can't control the emotions. And I don't try and control the emotion. I actually genuinely let it out. Another great thing my aunt taught me was it's so good to cry. And so when these things happen, I just cry and I cry and cry because it's a release. And so it's making sure that, yeah, just protect your mind. That's what I'd say. Make sure you protect your mind at all costs. And don't, you know, and I think from a business point of view, I was chatting to a few people this week and, you know, they were saying, yeah, you know, things are really hard right now in terms of getting clients. And I've been speaking to a few other people, they're going through the same thing. They're saying it's hard. And it's like, stop listening to everyone else telling you they're not getting clients either, because then that feeds, oh, well, they're not getting clients, so I'm not going to get clients, and blah, blah, blah. Like, people have said that to me in the last few weeks. And do you know what's really, really interesting is that in this last week, when I literally could not give a shit about anything, because the thing about when you receive news that someone has passed that one wasn't expecting, and two, someone that's you really meant something to you, you actually don't care. Like, it's almost like immediate perspective. When you get that news, like everything's put in perspective immediately and nothing else matters apart from love and relationships and connection. And, you know, I think sometimes we forget that as we go about our everyday life, but even more so when it happens, it really, really hits you. And so for me, like when that happened, I was just like so self-aware that I knew what I had to do in order to get myself back and to help my mind and foster my mind. And you know, when people were saying this to me this week about, oh, it's hard to get clients, I was like, do you know what's interesting? I've actually had more incoming emails this last week asking for B Corp certification than I have in the last 4. Like, it's unbelievable what happens. But again, that's because I've been doing work for the last 3 years, and probably even beyond that to get to that point of knowing about B Corp and knowing and gaining knowledge and everything about it, right? So it's like your daily habits that you're doing and everything you're doing to take your business along, then something like this happens and you're like, I don't care. But because you've done that work before and you've let go of the outcome and you don't get involved in the chatter around it, it's really hard. And yeah, things are hard. I get that things are hard, but don't tune into other people and situations feeding that outcome in your mind. You want to just know that the work that you're doing is powerful. And I'd say, as many entrepreneurs, especially the ones listening, you are doing heart-led work. If you're because I sort of see most of you as social entrepreneurs or aspiring social entrepreneurs, right? So you are leading with your heart. You're doing powerful work that's benefiting all people. The work is going to come because the world needs people like you to help them. And so tune into that and let go of the outcome, and just let go of having conversations like the feed the outcome that you don't want, right? If you obviously are knowing that you've not got many clients at the moment, is don't tune into other people telling you that there's no clients as well, right? That makes sense, because you're going to get more of that rather than trusting your work, trusting the process, and knowing that it's going to be fine. And then the last thing I want to talk about is movement in the body. And I mentioned the physical body. And for me, this has been so key the last week, that even though I've not really felt it because I've been very emotional and crying a lot, is I just wanted to keep moving my body, because I know that it does help. Because sometimes when you're physically sitting, it can just make the pain worse, right? And so I kept my schedule in terms of, again, my going to the gym, going to my classes. I've definitely done more softer type things, or what I would call, you've got your yin and your yang type exercise. So the yin is a lot more feminine, it's a lot more softer, like yoga and meditation, Pilates, you know, like the stuff that's a bit softer. And then you've got Blaze, and you've got like HIIT classes and high cardio. So I've sort of not been doing as much as the high cardio, just a little bit. and sort of tuning into the more softer ones, because I want to be gentle with myself as I go through this, as I go through the emotions and the healing process. So I would definitely say keep those things in place. And even if you don't have that in place and you can't manage that, just walking very slowly in nature, just going walks, making sure that you're doing that even more so when these lows hit. And I would say the other thing is sleep. Oh my goodness, like today, I literally slept for 3 hours during the day, and your body tells you, but quite often, in fact, more often than not, we don't listen. And again, I was having a conversation this week with another few entrepreneurs, and one of these entrepreneurs said, I'm just absolutely exhausted and I could go to sleep right now. And I was like, do you know what? Go to sleep. And he was just like, what? Like, no, I can't. Like, in the middle of the day, I was like, honestly, go for a 30-minute nap. If you're telling me that and you're feeling that, your body is telling you what it needs. And when we don't listen to that and we keep building it up and building it up, building it up, when the lows happen, it will completely wipe you out, like completely wipe you out, because you've not been listening to what your body's telling you. So never underestimate the power of sleep. I think in the next season of this podcast, I'm going to do a whole bunch of stuff on wellness, because there's so many things I want to talk about. But sleep, 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 sleep. When your body tells you to sleep, go and sleep. Don't feel bad. Let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, because I used to feel that way. Like, it was probably more guilt actually, like as an entrepreneur, when I owned my own time, not owned my own days. It was like, you have to work 9 to 5 and 8-hour days. I was like, do you know what? I actually don't operate my best when I'm working every hour of every day. And when I have an afternoon nap, I actually function really well, because I get up early. I generally get up early, not always, but get up in the morning. I do my exercise. I do all of that. I do a good few hours of work. I take a bit of a nap in the afternoon, and then I actually do more work at night, and that works for me. Like, even now it's like 10 p.m. at night, because I've had that nap, I feel incredible. I'm not sure if I'm going to sleep tonight. I probably will, but again, your body will tell you. So never underestimate the power of sleep. And obviously, that I give you the free download of Yoga Nidra, and I think they're in the show notes of this podcast, and it's a free download. 20 minutes practice of Yoga Nidra, which is just a meditation, is the equivalent of 3 hours deep sleep. I needed 3 hours deep sleep today, but if I really truly didn't have that time, because I had meetings and all sorts and lots of things and commitments, then I would have done Yoga Nidra, right? And so it's, again, what are your personal tools for your well-being that you can use in these moments? So yeah, sleep, meditation, walks, nature, movement, keep your body moving. But in moments of real lows, go gently, go really, really gentle as you do that. So that's all I really wanted to share. I really hope that was useful, because it's been something that I've been navigating in the last week, especially. And I know that many of you as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, or even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're just listening to this, like, you'll definitely know that there'll be things that hit you and you're like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? Like, how do I deal with this situation? And all I would say is prepare for impact. So now, if things are amazing, congratulations. Make sure you're putting the investments in place and the mechanisms in place for your structure and your systems, all those tools I mentioned. Make sure you're cultivating the relationships of your support crew, both from business and a personal point of view. Make sure you're always protecting your mindset, and you're making sure you do that daily, because that means the highs and the lows are not going to be as extreme. Keep moving your body, move your body. And yeah, that's it. Prepare for impact. That's the message that I would say, because you absolutely don't know what's going to come today, tomorrow, or the next day, or next week, or next year. So doing the work daily and putting the right things in place from a sort of systematic point of view, a business point of view, but also a personal point of view, is really, really important. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I so appreciate your time. And as a thank you, and especially for this season, which is all about entrepreneurship, it's so important to look after yourself from a mind, a body, and a spirit point of view. So as a gift, you can download my Yoga Nidra practice from my website. And this is a guided meditation to really regenerate your mind, your body, and your soul. I hope you enjoy, and I'll speak to you soon.